Welcome to the Biostock Studio and this episode of Health and Wealth Podcast. My guest today is Kristofer Klerfalk, who is an entrepreneur, an investor and a baritone singer. Welcome, Kristofer. So, let's start with your background. You're an entrepreneur and you're an investor. You're also a baritone singer. I want to talk about all these things, but we'll take one step at a time. So let's start with entrepreneurship. What drove you into starting companies in the first place?
I think that I've always been playing businesses of different sorts. So when I was little, me and my siblings were just having some kind of shop running all the time. Could be that a bank or selling sweets or anything. And I think that sort of playing has just evolved into business after a while. And as a 13-year-old, I think one summer I was a bit restless and my mother didn't really understand how she should survive that summer. So she said, maybe you could help out in other people's gardens. So I went around cutting grass and doing different sort of gardening work. And for the money I earned that summer, I could buy an electric guitar. And I think something happened a bit in my sort of reward system in my brain at that point, that if you do stuff, you can benefit from it.
If you do stuff and get paid.
Exactly, yeah.
Well, that's really cool and a good start of an entrepreneurial career, I guess. So, you, as far as I can see, you started lots of companies within the life science space. What's the background to that? How did you end up in the life science space?
So I've always been interested in biology and chemistry. So I applied to Uppsala University to become a pharmacist. And during the studies in Uppsala, I think I got a little bit restless. And so, again, yeah, that's the red thread. So me and a friend, a colleague, Martin, a peer at the university, we founded Pharmademic, that was basically renting out students, and this was in the before academic work and so on. So with a pitch to pharmaceutical companies and pharmacies that we can do stuff they sort of had piled up and didn't want to do, and we could do that for basically no money at all. And that was another step in sort of learning how to run a business and having employees, and so that was really fun work and a lot to organize. But you also, we built a great network during those years.
And was it aiming for the pharma companies? Did that have something to do with your education, that you were in that field, or?
Yeah, so both me and Martin, we have been really engaged and still are in the Student Society Association for Pharmacists. And there was sort of some kind of contacts with the alumni of the pharmaceutical faculty, and sort of we got a hint of what would like to do after the studies, and this was a great way of probing for what's out there and who's great to work with and so on.
And after that, you actually then founded and co-founded several more companies. Do you want to give us a short timeline of the different companies?
Yeah, so I actually went directly from uni to work at the pharmaceutical company, Sharing Plow, with a product, a drug for rheumatoid arthritis. So I worked with that for 2 years, but I ran the student sort of renting students parallel to that, and it grew into becoming basically a high-end call center after a while, where we did medical information for 14 pharma companies. And at that point, I left Cheering Plough, but that was 2 great years with a lot of inspiring colleagues and a great time. And from there on, it's been some new companies evolving every second year. For instance, I joined Health Solutions that has been building registers and decision-making sort of software within healthcare, and also Svensk Dos, a dose dispensing pharmacy in Uppsala, where that was basically the last part of the monopoly that was rearranged in Sweden. So we had the opportunity to bid on a couple of tenders and could do dose dispensing with a new type of technology, new setup and software and everything. So we could do that for 97% cheaper than the previous manufacturer. And that was a great journey, but a lot of, you see the gray hairs here come from that era, because don't build a factory if you don't have to.
I won't, no. I promise.
But it turned out really well, and after 5 years, Oriola, the big wholesaler from Finland, came and bought the company.
So you've started companies, you founded companies, but you've also exited companies. So was this your first exit then?
Yeah, we did a minor exit as well with the high-end call center, 2015, and then Svensk Dos 2016.
Yeah. Have you made any more exits after that?
Yeah, 2021 we sold Health Solutions to BCB Medical, also a Finnish company. So I have a lot to thank Finland for.
A good Finnish network, basically. Yeah. So that's really cool. But before we go deeper into the exit part, what would you consider to be the key traits for a successful entrepreneur?
Stamina, and then sort of liking to be outside the comfort zone.
I was going to say in chaos.
No, but I mean, I think you have to be really well organized to handle all the chaos, and then have stamina and absolutely you have to be disappointed when you fail, but you have to have a mindset that it's not the end of the world. And you do like this, and then you
shake it off.
You shake it off a bit,
and
then you move on. Yeah, but that takes quite some time to go in to become an entrepreneur, because it's a lot of grinding to get there. And I understand why people leave it, because it's basically an agony at times. But the wins are extremely rewarding as well.
Yeah. And what about the business idea then? I mean, usually you have to start with something you feel like, okay, I can contribute to something here, or I can do something better. Like cutting the costs for your clients with 97%. That's a very clear USP, if you will. But do you believe that a good entrepreneur can create success almost based on any kind of idea, or has it always been the idea first with you?
I think it has. I'm really a person-orientated person. Is that even a saying? But I tend to see people's potential. So I'm not the smartest guy in school or in the world, but I have really good skills on connecting people that can build stuff together. And so I think that has been one key. And then also I was allowed as a quite young, in my 20s, to join with really talented entrepreneurs and learn from them and be a part of their companies or our company. So I'm really grateful for the mentorship and to be able. And I told that to one of my first co-founders, and he said, "Yes, but you came in along and contribute from day one." But that wasn't my picture. I was so happy to be able to hang with these guys. So, did I answer your question? No, maybe not.
I think you did. I think you did.
Yeah.
So if you have a superpower, if you will, an entrepreneurial superpower, that is to seeing people's potential and connecting people.
Yeah, I building teams. I think that's maybe, and then over time you develop an eye for financials and for IP and building and all these stuff. But I think that's probably one of my super skills, if I have one. I think it's actually on the way here I met an old colleague. She worked at this call center 15 years ago, and I told her that I'm going to meet you and do this today, and she said that, yeah, the key thing with you was that it was so fun to work together, and I think that sort of may add shed some light on why I think the fun factor has been a really good key to pull off all the things.
Yeah. Important to have fun doing what you do, basically.
Yeah.
So then transitioning, if you will, from entrepreneur to investor, how did that sort of career step come about for you?
I think it was 2016 when we exited Svensk Dos. It was a possibility that I didn't have before then. And it takes quite some time to calibrate and to understand the dynamics of early investing. And I recommend everyone there are great sort of investment courses and trainings and so on, crash courses and so on, to get a hint of where to start. But I've found great ventures and great people, and then joined in with small sums. But I think it was 2021 that I met with Ann-Charlotte Beckman and Magnus Claesson and started co-investing with them, where I sort of felt that they built a great process and structure in Life Science Invest, and that was sort of, okay, this is the way to do it. I'd been around in tech for a couple of years as well. I'm really happy for that now, because tech and life science is merging. But maybe I found that I'm a better pharmacist and life science guy than I'm a techie.
and interacting with, as an entrepreneur in your early endeavors and starting companies, did you ever seek capital or venture capital then, or were you bootstrapping? How did you go about it, financing your companies?
So we built organically in Health Solutions and in Pharmademic and in this call center, and that was a really good journey to build 100% organically. But to build a factory, you need some capital. So we worked with venture capital, and that was a great journey. I think we wouldn't have been able to pull that off without that type of advice and guidance from the guys at the VC.
Yeah, is that something you have brought along with you then in your own endeavors as an investor?
Yeah, absolutely.
Things you learned then.
Yeah, and knowing how to help an an entrepreneur to be sort of founder friendly. I think that's a key that's really important as an investor.
That's sometimes something that VCs aren't known for. Someone said to us, to me, I was moderating a panel at the Biostock Summit the other month, and someone said to me that investors are not your friend.
No, but I've spent a lot of time with VCs now as we syndicate in investments, and we've discussed this quite a lot. And I think that the right thing to do for a company isn't always nice. And I think you can be a founder-friendly VC, but at some point you might invest in another company and not follow up in your company, Jonas, and then you will take that as an insult. Or we need to change management because the management in the company is outdated. Then that could be really hard for an entrepreneur. But it could still end up being the best life situation for the entrepreneur that has been working maybe 10, 15 years really hard, and when they step down as from being CEO, they get some other values from it and might do the things that they do best, maybe the tech or the something. So, but absolutely, there are hard decisions to make, and that's not always nice, but yeah.
But you can still be founder-friendly and have a good heart, so to speak.
Yeah, ask me in 20 years if I've succeeded, but yeah, I believe that you can be that, yeah.
But as you said, you teamed up with Ann-Charlotte and Magnus and Life Science Invest. Now you're fully involved in that. Can you tell us a little bit more about the background of Life Science Invest? What do they do?
Yeah. So Ann-Charlotte and Magnus is a pharmacist, and Ann-Charlotte a trained nurse, but also she studied a lot of economics, and they ran a company together, NetDoctor, which they exited in 2020, something like that, and then they started investing together, and then more people wanted to join, and they founded Life Science Invest, and I joined for their second fund, LSE Beta, and just saw that they had built a great process. They had built a great deck flow from the whole of the Nordics, and a process where you evaluate and sort everything, and all the shareholders are a part of the sort of selection process and everything. And the companies that get a no from Life Science Invest are happy because they get a lot of sort of tips and tricks from the entrepreneurs. And the ones that get a yes, they get a vast network of knowledge together with the money. So that has been a great venture to be a part of, because it's a win-win for everyone, to be able to help the companies in early stage and also with funding, and then just sort of putting together the network and the investment lead. We have one person from our network, preferably someone that has done a journey in that vertical before, and that becomes the investment lead for that company. So if you run a medtech company, you will get an exited medtech entrepreneur that has done the sort of market entry to the US and sold the company as a mentor, and the money as well.
So a lot of relevant experience comes with the investment then.
Yeah.
So Life Science Invest have what about 35, 40 companies in the portfolio?
Yes,
is that
40 plus now.
Yeah.
And we are, just before going in here, I read the shareholders agreement for the next investment, and it's about 42 companies now in the portfolio.
All right.
And now we are sort of ending the investment period for LSE Epsilon, the 5th fund, and starting to raise the 6th fund. And now we're doing a little bit bigger. I have to say also that I became a part of the management 2.5 years ago. So I've been sort of in the driver's seat with Ann-Charlotte and Magnus for the past couple of years now. And now we're raising the 6th fund, and it will be a bit bigger, more like a VC, and a Nordic-based fund. So we will invest broadly in the Nordics and life science, and we will enter a round Series A, maybe late seed.
You're currently raising this fund?
Yes.
So how much are you aiming to raise?
500 million Swedish crowns.
And the earlier funds have been smaller?
Around 17-20 million crowns.
That's quite a big difference.
Yeah, but the stage is also, I mean, to get 1.5 million in the early phase where we've invested so far means a lot, because then Almi Invest could double that sum, and other networks and business angels can join. So we have sort of, I think that's a really nice niche, but then you don't need that much money to make a big difference. But going forward and investing in later phases, you need quite a lot more money to be able to do the sort of the metrics to go.
So there is this expression, the valley of death. Would you say that is that between the early phase that the earlier LSI funds have been covering then, and the phase that you're going to be in now, or are you sort of aiming for that gap?
Yeah, I think it's a really good trend now that there are a couple of new VCs the past 5 years in the Nordics helping out with that gap, but we need to have more money in that phase before you have like really good market penetration. There's a lot of investors that wait until it's basically done, and we need some more capital to bridge over into that. And that's a bit of my vision going forward, is to attract more capital, maybe US capital and other capital into the Nordics to be able to bridge that valley of death, because we have a lot of nice companies that struggle in the valley.
Speaking of nice companies and seeing that you have 40 plus companies in the LSI portfolio, are there any general selection criteria that you can point out, saying that this is actually this is key for us to be able to invest?
The classic answer is the team is so important, but it has to, in my head, when I look at the deal flow coming in, I think we have 1,400 deals just floating in every year. So what I look at is to tick all the boxes, so I have a mind that just sort of sorts all the data and tick all the boxes. Okay, great founding team, the founders has ownership in the company, it's protectable with patent or IP aspects, and there is a market pull, there is a go-to-market plan, this is really disruptive, and so on. And if you tick all the boxes, we go into a meeting where we try to sort of dig down in all those parameters to see if it holds up.
But about 1,400 deals pass your desk every year. Then, how many do you do that deeper dive into?
So we maybe do a deeper dive into 100 of them, and then we select 40 to go even further, and then 20 goes up to our investment committee, and out of them we get a 50% no. Not lately, because I think we've sort of fine-tuned a bit what the investment committee likes, but approximately something like that. And then we do 10 investments per year, approximately.
Okay. Do you have any preferences in terms of the area that the companies are active in?
I visualize sort of each year there's a train passing the Nordics with great companies like carriages. And you don't really know what the mix is. Maybe there are 2 great medtech companies, maybe there are 3 or 4, but you don't know. And maybe there's a great diagnostic company or pharma. And then you have to have some kind of gut feeling on where to make your bets. So I think that can differ from year to year. Now lately we've seen a lot of what we call tool companies, where they have tools that do the production or the scientific research really much better. And they can sort of sell without regulatory approval. And that has been sort of 20-24 years train in my point of view. So we've done a couple of these tool companies investments now.
Have you seen an uptick in the number of companies pitching that include the word AI in their pitch deck?
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone wants to have some kind of AI tag or aspect.
So how do you sort the ones that actually are sort of, just trying to ride the hype from those who actually have something fundamental?
I think there's in the sorting phase, it's a lot of unconscious things that's going on. So maybe I sit there and I scroll through pitch decks listening to Bach, and I just find something interesting, or I just find things that doesn't add up. And then when I find a pitch deck that sort of I think there's something to it, then I go deeper into it and sort of often send it to a couple of branch experts, friends that work in that field, and ask, is this science valid? Is this a great science, or what is this? And from there on we then meet. We had a case just a couple of weeks ago where a founder that has done exits before emailed and said, we want a meeting. And I said, please answer these questions first. And I think he got a bit offended because no one turns this guy down. And I didn't get the answer. So I had to go out and do sort of a second opinion because I didn't understand the tech, the science. And then I got my second opinions back, and we got the meeting. And I think that will end up really well, but it's hard for us. We can't meet hundreds of companies each sort of month or week. It's impossible. So that's really hard for us to sort.
Yeah. So you mentioned listening to Bach during the selection process. Is there any composer that you would say would sort of make your mind more open to investing rather than the other way around?
Yeah, I think I listen a lot to music, and there's always music playing in my head as well. And I think it's really mood sort of guided. So no specific sort of. I always say yes when I listen to this, but there are some symphonies that I listen a lot to, and I get into some kind of mental state where it's just wonderful to be.
Yeah. So knowledgeable entrepreneurs would send a sound clip together with their pitch deck
exactly.
to you.
Click here and then you hear Mozart or Bach. Yeah.
But you also state on your LinkedIn profile that you are a baritone tenor entrepreneur investor, not necessarily in that order, but how important is the music to you in general?
I think I think that has been key to be able to activate other parts of the brain. And so singing has been a part of my life for quite some time now. And just the other weekend we had 5 concerts in Uppsala with the choir, Orfejdrängar, OD. and it's just incredible to be able to do that on a weekend and then work with this on a Monday, even if that Monday was quite sort of uphill. But it's wonderful to be able to jump in and out of those worlds.
And for any international listeners, then I should perhaps point out that Orfeo Drängar is based in Uppsala, and that's the other great male choir in Sweden, apart from Lund's Studentsångare, then, of course.
And Lund's Studentsångare is a couple of years older, I think, as well.
I think so, and there's always a little bit of friendly banter between the two. So music is important, and the selection process is, of course, important when you're an investor. But what would you say? Is there any other driving force within you that makes you want to go and invest in life science companies?
Yeah, I think that when I reflect on the investments we've done so far, if any of them will go sort of all the way, if you can say, they will be innovations that will help all mankind after us. And that's something that makes me tick, that if this new way of extracting a lump in the chest when you search for breast cancer, if that goes all the way, that will be the golden standard for maybe quite some time. Or a new pharmaceutical or a new medicine that will help curing cancer. That's something that sort of really makes me tick. And I have that policy that only work with stuff that sort of have saved the world potential.
Well, that's a good aim, I would say. Yeah. So I think you mentioned that the new fund that you're raising, that is a Nordic based. Is it focused only on companies in the Nordics, so the investments will be in the Nordics?
Yeah, I think we might have some openings for investments outside Nordics, but maybe 90% Nordics, and then we have really good collaborations kicking off now with Finland, Denmark, and Norway, and to integrate more deeply with them. So we travel a lot now, and meeting the investors and the ecosystems in our neighbor countries. And I think that's the way to go. We're too small by our own. I think we need to build the feeling of a Nordic cluster to invest in.
But you also mentioned that your aim or that your vision is to bring in more US capital, which is always a little bit challenging, I would say. But is that clustering the Nordics together, would that be an opening or a way, a means to get the US investors interested, you think?
I think so. We need to have a couple of more sort of great success stories, and we need to show that some of these, or the new funds that has been started now the past 5-10 years, are really successful. Then we can attract more money into that track record. So I think that's absolutely a way, but also European capital into the Nordics. So we're topping the lists of innovative countries, but then to take those innovations all the way to the markets, that's where we need to step up, I think.
So what would you say, speaking to investors outside of the Nordics, and what would you say is the biggest challenge for Nordic companies trying to make a dent or make an impression? So
you mentioned bootstrapped earlier, and a lot of our sort of early stage science-based life science companies, they have been able to take a lot of cost within academia and to build and come quite far with a little cash burn. So when US investors look into those companies, they miss a 1-0 in the valuation, and I think something's wrong. And I think at some point we need to sort of bridge over that problem And one way could be that the US investors put the money in our funds instead, and then work from there.
Is that your pitch then for raising
Yeah.
the fund?
Yeah, I think that could be one. And I also spent some time in Japan, where they built a really smart mechanism. So the Japanese equivalent to Life Science Invest actually invest in the US as well, and the US invests in their companies. So there's a little bit like foreign times when times long ago where you sort of married over tribes to make peace. And I think that could be one way of doing it in the future, that we co-invest in each other ventures more, and sort of erase the boundaries.
It builds trust.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. But then again, when we come with our wallets to the US, it's there's so much, and a business angel in the US has sort of much bigger tickets. So I think we have to have some smart approaches on that.
But Life Science Invest, the early funds, I mean, it's basically angel networks, right? How would you say that is the scenery for Swedish business angels? Is it thriving, or is it on the decline? I mean, it's a tough climate out there financially. So what's your assessment of this situation?
I think we see a trend where there are new business angels sort of entering the arena, and that's really great, thanks to courses and education, and that you sort of activate knowledge with capital. There are some people with great knowledge, but they haven't started investing. So in Uppsala, for instance, we have an investment network. Connect Uppsala has an investment network, and it has grown to 100 active investors now. And that makes a huge difference for the ecosystem in Uppsala. But what the past couple of years has been expensive. To help your portfolio company survive, you need to put in more money. And I think it's been really smart to invest in this period when the valuations has been sort of pressed really low. But at some point it has to turn as well, so the angel money comes back in order to have the sort of circular flow of investing.
But then raising this new larger fund that you were aiming for, how much was it again?
500 million Swedish crowns, so 50 million euros.
Half a billion SEK. What are the main challenges in trying to raise that type of fund in this climate then?
We have to convince the investors that now is the time to invest. I mean, to invest in the peak is not really like when it happens. So I think it's really smart to do the best placements now. And the good thing as well is that the really greatest companies, they are available for us now. When we're reaching towards a peak in sort of investment cycle, then the greatest companies are just swallowed by other bigger sort of capitalists. So now is the time to join and to be able to take a bite in the market with in the upturn.
And well, looking then forward, looking sort of into the crystal ball, what do you see then? What makes you? Is there something that makes you specifically optimistic about the future?
I think the past 40 minutes has shown that there are some optimism in my body. So I think I have some kind of ground sort of floating level of optimism, but I think that we have a great opportunity to live in the technology leap time. Just 30, 40 years ago, we did stuff with the technology available was something else. And now we see curing treatments. We see trends that maybe in one lifespan we can cure 95% of all cancers. And I mean, to be able to live in this era and to have the fortune to be active and helping a lot of companies, or trying to help a lot of companies in this era it's really fortunate. And just look into the AI and the chatbots and everything, how fast it develops. I mean, the things we did a couple of years ago has pivoted and been disrupted totally. So I'm really excited of the coming years and trying to sort of work as smart as possible with the energy as I grow even older.
And speaking of that, do you use any AI tools yourself in your sort of daily life?
Yeah. So I actually during my tech era, I co-founded a company that does process modeling with AI. So you can ask the AI to build yourself a process of any kind, and it builds up into boxes and swim lanes and everything, and then it's everything connected. I use that almost daily to process up different things. And also when we need to build something, then you can ask and you get a blueprint. And that's really, it's an awesome tool. And then of course I use the available chatbots and talk to them and ask questions. And it's also fun because my children wants to learn Spanish, and then I ask the chatbot to teach me stuff so I can talk to my children in Spanish on a 3-year-old level.
Yeah.
Because they are 6 and 10, so they are basically there in Spanish, and then they can't understand how I learn these sort of phrases. It's really fun.
So you haven't told them about?
No.
That's cheating.
Yeah.
That's cheating. So do you use AI in any shape and form as an investor?
Oh, there is a syndicate or an investment network in Switzerland that has built an AI motor to sort of sort all the data, and they've come one bit far, but there are another investment company in the US that builds a fully automated deal flow sourcing AI engine. So it sort of searches the whole internet on a daily basis, trying to find pitch decks. And then they automatically evaluates all of these pitch decks and then feed them into them. And I think at some point I want to sort of maybe buy that white label from them. But it sounds really smart. But for the time being, I think our sort of the human eyes are a bit faster in selecting. But that would be awesome to have the possibility to just throw it into the sort of machinery, and you get out the top 5.
Unless then you feel that 1,400 decks per year is enough.
Yeah.
To assess.
Yeah, maybe. But I think we will. I think the tools are refining as we speak and becoming better and better. And I think we also have to learn how to prompt better and set criteria. So I think we should use AI more in all those sort of time-consuming, easy stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of trends, then, and you also mentioned that in 2024 there was the tools that are used by the life science industry. That's sort of an investment trend you've seen. What do you predict to be the coming trends, if you will? I mean, it's a tough question, but
yeah, but that's a good question. I think think we've seen a trend now on that tech on a thing. You take something you've used for many years and then you put tech on it. And I think the next thing is that you will sort of put med tech on a thing and then you would put pharmaceuticals on that thing as well. So that tech and pharma is sort of merging together. And that treatments, digital treatments, there is one company now a bit under the radar that basically get 30% better score on depression by just playing a video game. Arousing the parts of the brain that has sort of gone down in activity. The cognition resonance. So I think we will see at some point the digital therapies within neurology will sort of take off, and we will find payment models for that. I think we have to go that way. And then you have all the trends around longevity. I mean, if you can crack the code of aging, that will be something as well. And I think we are getting older and older per generation. So over time, and I think we always, or it's really common that you just think of the coming 100 years. But I think if you sort of stretch a bit and think of the coming 500 years, then there are sort of aspects we can't really grasp.
Personally, I think I find it a little bit hard to grasp more than 5 years ahead of time, to be honest. I mean, having then been an investor for quite some time, having been part of investing in lots of companies, you mentioned the 40 plus companies in LSI's portfolio, for example. Are there any specific companies that you would like to mention that you are keeping an extra tight eye on right now?
If I mention those, I will get like 35 emails of the ones I didn't mention.
That's probably true, yeah.
Yeah, but I think what I recommend is to go to lifescienceinvest.se and just look into the portfolio. There is a great mix there of pharma, medtech, diagnostics, and tools. And I think every company is a rock star. And they also mention that at times when they, when we talk about the companies, that they are really glad to be in the LSI family. It's something special. So of course I have some favorites, but that's
maybe it's better not
to mention. No. But that varies also, because sometimes you think that a CEO is not really doing exactly what I had in mind, but then it turns out to be better, and that's really a wonderful thing. And I love the strive. I mean, to work with early stage companies before they have the sort of burden of all the administration, a big company, all that
burden of sales reports, stuff like that, boring stuff like that.
That's a beautiful era. The first 10 years of company building. It's so wonderful.
But do you have to be somewhat of a dreamer to be an early stage investor? Because I was talking to a very seasoned VC investors, and I don't have to mention which one, but you can check it out in our library of former episodes.
Listen to every episode.
But it was the strategy was to go in early stage, and also had a theory or a methodology. Based on the fact that there were better returns in terms of how many X you get when you exit. Anyway, I don't want to go into all the details if I can't even remember them correctly. But saying that he was saying that when you invest in an early stage, you actually invest in a vision and a dream, If you invest in later stages, then you need more proof. That's what you have. You have sort of the receipt. Is this working or not? Do you feel like a dreamer when you're in early stage?
That's probably a perfect, correctly sort of statement. But if I enjoy the early stage, and since I've built a couple of companies, I've sort of fine-tuned the expertise in the first 10 years. I love that phase, but now with a sixth fund, we will go into sort of later stage as well. So, or that will be the primary focus of the next fund. So, and I think that someone needs to help out in the early phase. Otherwise, the late investors, they don't have anything to invest in. So you need the whole sort of chain of capital actors, the whole way, and the weakest link will be the problem. So we need early stage angels taking a lot of risk. But my message and tip on that case is that try to spread your early stage investment, so you sort of do it together with other persons to spread the risk. I think that's basically a must if you invest really early. Otherwise,
not put
it's
all your
hard.
eggs in one basket.
No, that's really that's a high risk. I mean, you could end up really sort of on the high side, but it's high risk. But it's a bit like, I mean, you lived up in Björkliden for a time and skied, yes. And you know, going into a green slope could be nice, but going off piste is something else.
True.
So if you like off piste, then you take on a higher risk, but maybe the reward is bigger as well.
Well, it's something that you can. It's more fun to talk about in the after ski session for sure.
If you're not in a cask.
Yeah, if you're not in a cask, yeah, that's true. Yeah. So looking forward and just a year ahead, what do you think will be the big thing on everyone's lips? I mean, it's been financing basically for a couple of years now. What do you think will be the thing everyone talks about at the end of 2025?
We had a meeting the other week where myself and Carl at HealthCap has gathered a lot of VCs together, and we just sit in a room for a day and not getting disturbed by anything and just discussing topics and future and cap table and investments and stuff. And we see that the trend of sort of the ice has not sort of broken yet. It's still freezing cold in the investment climate, but at some time it has to change. And hopefully, I mean, we will have made a couple of investments in our new fund, and the market is sort of on track again, and capital is flooding out because there's a lot of capital in pharma, dry powder, where there has never been that much dry powder in pharma to do big merger or acquisitions, and the VCs also have a lot of money in the funds globally. So at some point it needs to be released. So hopefully in a year's time when we meet, it is starting to sort of opening up.
And the new fund, you mentioned then hoping to have made some first investments with the new fund. When is the fund closing for this? Yeah,
there are some sort of processes when you work with Europeiska Investeringsfonden, EIF, and so on, the European Investment Fund and so on. And those takes time. So I think you have to be a bit patient. So maybe we'll close beginning summer or September, something like that. But we already have pinpointed a couple of companies that we would love to go in deeper in discussions with.
And I'm pretty sure you won't mention which they are.
I can mention it, but then I have to
kill everyone listening.
No. No, but I think it's also really a lot about syndicating with other investors to build a great cap table and helping the company.
I was going to ask that. Who else will invest? Can you mention any type of or a category of investors or even names? I
think we will work closely together with the other VCs active in. We all know each other by now, and I think that's the perfect lineup for a Series A, that you're 3 or 4 VCs together joining in that venture.
Because the typical ticket size would be how much?
For us, maybe 10 to 30 million Swedish crowns. But it depends quite a lot on the case as well. And what phase, how early, and so on. But in the early stage investments that we do right now, I see Almi Invest, Industrifonden, Nordic is great collaborative co-investors.
With the track record that LSI has had so far, do you find it easy to find new co-investors?
I think we have had a really good sort of sweet spot situation where we've been able to help the companies really well in the early stages, and that's sort of the ecosystem, the incubators, the universities. Everybody loves that, and the other investors also like that they got one sort of head on the cap table, but there are 40 persons behind that backing it up. So I think we've had a really nice sort of what do you call that, market building, so brand building period now, and that's something to really handle with care, so that we take that even further and try to be a really founder-friendly investor.
For anyone, any investor listening to this, then that feel like, well, he seems like a nice guy to be investing with, or they seem like a nice group to syndicate with. What should they do in order to be part of it?
Reach out, and I think we are too small in the Nordics to sort of work lone wolf style. So, and I think at some point we might be sort of competitors in some investments, and then we will be collaborative partners in another. But I think by doing stuff together, that's really a key. And I think that the other venture funds that are raising capital right now, it's just really good, because we need more of them. We need 10 more VCs in the Nordics. That would sort of help a lot for the whole journey of the ecosystem.
Doing things together and collaborating sounds like spoken like a true choir singer.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we are running out of time, but I would just wanted to finish up by asking you, what do you consider to be the best Christmas song of all time?
Oh, that's hard.
Is it Wham?
No, it's actually a Ukrainian song called Shedrik. It's about a little dove, a swallow, I think it is. And it flies from house to house on New Year's Eve and tells about that the spring is coming and all will be well. And it's so beautiful song. And you can actually hear in the music that the wings of the bird is sort of flopping. It's extremely beautiful and simple but beautiful. And listen to that, and also maybe send some money to Ukraine at the same time. But I think that's the most beautiful one.
Yeah, it sounds like a very beautiful message, and let's hope that comes true. That's on top of many of our wish lists, I think. Thank you so much for taking the time, Kristofer, to come here today.
Thank you, Jonas. It's been a pleasure.